I move that further proceedings under the roll call be dispensed with and the Sergeant at Arms be instructed to bring in the absent members.
On that motion, all in favor say aye. All opposed? Motion prevails. Continuing with messages from the House, the Secretary will read the message.
Mr. President, I have the honor to announce that the House has adopted the recommendation and report of the Conference Committee on House File number 2310 and repassed said bill in accordance with the report of the committee, so adopted. House File number 2310, a bill for an act relating to state government appropriating money for environment, natural resources, climate, and energy. House File number 2310 is herewith transmitted to the Senate. Signed, Patrick D. Murphy, Chief Clerk, House of Representatives.
Call on Senator Herr for motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the foregoing recommendations and the Conference Committee report on House File 2310 be now adopted and that the bill be repassed as amended by the Conference Committee.
Senator Herr moves that the foregoing recommendations and Conference Committee report on House File 2310 be now adopted and that the bill be repassed as amended by the Conference Committee. To that motion, Senator Herr.
Thank you, Mr. President and members. I appreciate all of your early support and the trust most of you have in me for making sure this bill, House File 2310, or the Conference Committee report for the Omnibus Environmental, Natural Resource, Climate, and Energy Policy Finance Bill comes back better and with good compromise. I will say yes. I believe that we have done our job well, thanks to our supporting staff and our conferees, Senator Coleman, Senator Xiong, our Energy Chair, Senator Friends, and Senator McEwen, who is also Vice Chair of the Environment Committee. I'm pleased to tell you that we upheld our Senate position to the apex level on many prominent legislation, such as managing CWD, the chronic wasting disease, PFAS elimination, cumulative impacts, lottery in lieu, boating education, mineral importing now, and of course, our 2023 DNR land provision or land bill. Some smaller provision or projects that you will be happy to hear included in this bill are the Minnesota River Basin Project on Area 2, Rough Fish Report, funding for ATV trails, overnight deer stand in WMA, paperless outdoor licenses, algae cleaning on Alice Lake and French Lake, to name a few. They are passed out of here and came back intact. This bill is transformative and could be a model for other states to follow. There's many layers in this bill, several layers in this bill: the LCCMR layer, the environmental policy and finance layer, the lands bill, and the climate and energy policy and finance layer. Our energy policy and budget also put us in a good position for 2040, as well as maximizing our position for the federal climate fund. I'll let Senator Friends tell you more, and for now, I ask that let's adopt the Conference Committee report. Thank you.
Senator Frentz.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. Very proud to stand before you and present House File 2310's energy articles. First, thanks to Ben Stanley and Dan Mueller from nonpartisan staff. I want to thank the pages, Claire DeMay, Natalie Haberman, and Marcus, who left us during the session for greener pastures. Special thanks to our researcher, Cassie Tomerdahl. Needless to say, my CLA, Travis Ernest, and the incomparable CA Justin Emmerich. Thanks to all of you. Also like to acknowledge the House Chair, Chair Acom, for her work on this. and recognizing all the members of the committee with a special thank you to the ranking minority member, Senator Matthews, and also Mr. Frazier on research. Great team and some great discussions that we had during that. Also for the revisor's office, thanks to Ryan Inman, Tyler Gustafson in drafting. And with that, members, the energy articles came back much as they left this chamber not that long ago. We had $255 million in a spending target for general fund money, and $87 million were allocated to the renewable development account. It should be noted that the State Competitiveness Fund was part of that target, and at $115 million passed in separate legislation, but it is very important to the articles we have here because that money will now be able to be used by our cities, counties, nonprofits, and utilities to leverage federal money. And included in the bill is several articles that we hope will help them do that. I won't go through all the spending in the bill, but there are some items that I feel are worth pointing out. And our principles in the energy articles were multiple. One, to try to decarbonize. I'm persuaded that climate change is a real threat, and as we debate this bill tonight, I hope those that are able to will tell us how much they think the cost of climate change will be for the state of Minnesota if we do nothing, and if we do something, and then we can compare those. Decarbonizing was a priority of this bill. Second, the partnership with our utilities. People forget that our co-ops and munis are essentially nonprofits that are owned by our citizens. The way we partner with them matters. The way we make them a part of what we're doing, especially given the 100% carbon-free goal by 2040, is reflected in this bill, including grant programs. Finally, we should be thinking about the people of Minnesota who are asking us for clean, reliable, and affordable energy. Among the spending items in the bill, electric vehicle consumer rebates, $5 million of general fund, $10.7 million of RDA. Electric school bus grants, $6 million of general fund, $7 million of RDA. The Green Bank, special thanks to Vice Chair Senator Zhang, who championed the Green Bank, which will again allow us to not only promote business opportunities and clean energy opportunities, but to leverage federal funds. Pre-weatherization. For those Minnesotans that are eligible, pre-weatherization allows money to be spent preparing a home for weatherization that dramatically reduces energy. When we reduce a home or building's energy usage, we not only reduce carbon, we save money. And then finally, thank you to several members, including Senator Farnsworth, Senator McEwen, and Senator Hawj, for working on the high voltage transmission line to North Dakota. This was a high priority, $15 million to bring clean, affordable wind energy from the state of North Dakota into Hermantown and points along there. That was a $15 million general fund target and reflected bipartisan support. There were additional items worth mentioning. The Tribal Advocacy Council on Energy. This was Senator Kunish's bill to establish a Tribal Energy Council to help those Native American communities to benefit from clean energy. Many of them have had very little support going forward. The Local Climate Action Grant Program. This was a Senator McEwen bill. This allows local municipalities to advantage themselves for matching funds for local climate action. The Community Solar Garden Program, which is in evolution, hopefully helping us to have distributed energy. The greenhouse gas emissions reduction goals, that simply updates our goals. Now we're hoping to be emission neutral by 2050. And Solar for Schools administrative changes. This is where we're having Commerce take a larger role in Solar for Schools. Solar for Schools has been working in Minnesota in both big and small programs. The gist of it is to allow school districts to get the benefit of renewable energy, save money, and also teach students about the things going forward. There were 7 policy items in the bill. 5 were chief authored by Republicans, so we had bipartisan support in there. I do want to note in the RDA also we had the several projects, the Granite Falls Dam project, which was championed by Senator Dames. We had additional priorities in our negotiations with the House. I felt the Senate position was adequately represented, and I felt the House got some things they wanted to. With that, Mr. President, happy to ask members for a green vote on the bill. Pleasure to work on this and look forward to questions.
Thank you, and I believe that there's a list already, and I think the next person on this list is Senator Wiesenberg from Little Falls, according to this list. Excuse me a second, hold on. Sorry about that, Senator. Senator Matthews.
Thank you, Mr. President. Sorry for the confusion. Mr. President, I am going to move that the recommendations and conference committee report on House File 2310 be rejected and that the bill be re-referred to the conference committee as formally constituted for further consideration.
Thank you, Senator Matthews. Senator Matthews moved that the recommendation and conference committee report on House File 2310 be rejected and that the bill be re-referred to the conference committees as formally constituted for further consideration. Senator Matthews, to that motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. So we've had a lot of discussion on this bill throughout the session, and particularly in the Energy Committee that I've had the privilege of serving as lead on with Senator Frentz. And there's this bill, though we debated this once before, this bill did go backwards in some key areas. As we pointed out when this bill left the floor, the amount of funding that is in this bill is overwhelming to the side of the majority and the governor and the agencies that are in this bill, and very, very, very small for what Republican projects were in this bill, and that remains with this as well. And then there are other fiscal differences that came out in this bill. The amount for the Green Bank was at $5 million when we saw it here. It now comes out of the conference committee at $45 million total, including $20 million that's here in this bill. The amount of money that is going out in rebates for electric vehicles increased from $2 million to $5 million in this deal. And I'm going to come back to that again in just a little bit on the electric vehicle side. There were, of Republican amendments that we had in there were two key ones that got dropped. First one being the nuclear study, a project that I authored, $300,000 to go to a nuclear study. I know Senator Frentz tried to negotiate that into the bill, but very disappointed to see that get dropped out by the time the dust all settles. Senator Utke and Senator Green had $322,000 for their project, a school up in their area under this bill, which was removed. There were reductions and removals in funding such as the electric grid reliancy grants, the removal for the National Sports Center solar array, and reducing the amount going to green fertilizers from $12 million to $7 million. Continuing on, Mr. President, I want to go through some other key amendments that we added to this bill here on the floor. And we had a provision when this bill was last before us that gave additional off-ramps to the renewable energy standard and the carbon-free standards for munis and co-ops. This was an amendment that Senator Abler got on the bill. Co-authors to his idea included Senator Hoffman, Senator Kupek, and Senator Hauschchild. And we've had a lot of discussion this session about the difficulty that the RES is going to impose and the 100% mandate that is coming to our munis and co-ops. And there was even an acknowledgement by the chair and some in the majority that we have to keep working on this issue. And we got in an additional small off-ramp that is needed for our munis and co-ops when we last had this bill on the agenda. Very disappointed to see that this gets stripped out when the bill comes back. It reminds me of a story of an old parable of a farmer who had two sons, and he needed help with the work that was in his fields. And so he asked his first son, "Son, please come help me in the field." And the son said, "Yes, I will help you," but then ended up not following through and not helping. And he went to his second son and he asked, "Son, please come help me in the field." And that son said, "No, I will not help," and later had a change of mind, a prick in his conscience, and he later went on and returned and helped. And the question was asked, which of those two actually did the beneficial thing of helping the father? And here, this bill comes back like the first son. There's a lot of good talk of, yes, we need to help. We want to keep working on this. We want to keep negotiating. But when the time for action has come, the provision gets dropped from the bill, and we're left in the same position. We have the talk of, yes, I will help you, but we don't follow through and actually do the work. We had an amendment that passed by a unanimous voice vote on this floor from Senator Abler for a report on rate impact and the reliability of utility customers regarding the carbon-free standards and the RES standards to go to the legislature every year that compares the rates and reliabilities compared to the last 3 years. And it's amazing that not only are we going to remove off-ramps in there, but then we're also going to move standards of measurement to see if we're actually following through on the promises that we're trying to deliver. If all the benefits of the renewable energy standard that the proponents say are going to come to pass, well, they've pulled away all the standards of measure where we can actually see if that's helping, or if, as I am guessing will happen, energy rates are going to continue to rise faster afterwards than they are before. There was an amendment that passed on this floor with a unanimous voice vote, related to another off-ramp issue of a B100 bill that will help our munis that have diesel generators, and working with them on how to convert over to some biofuels as an option for moving into the next generation of energy, and that got removed out of this bill. And then back to the electric vehicles, we had an amendment that we added to this bill before that put an income limit, limiting those who will be eligible for the electric vehicle rebates. We put on here that if you had an income greater than 300% of the federal poverty guidelines, you would not be eligible for electric vehicle rebates. And the theory behind that is, I think, something we can all agree to. Let's help the people that need it, and let's not have this available as handouts for the rich and the wealthy. And we agreed on this floor and passed this amendment on here, and that gets stripped out of the bill. So now these rebates will be eligible for all. I think they'll be taken advantage of and utilized by wealthy Minnesotans that don't need them. And when we made a stand to help target this help to those who need them, when push comes to shove and action is required from the committee, this gets stripped out, and we're back to where we were before. As well as with that, another amendment was added before when we were on this floor to require that at least 50% of a vehicle's battery components be produced or assembled in North America. That got stripped out in the conference committee. And then we have this debate over and over, and members, we keep indicating that we're all in support of this, and we passed a Lucero amendment on this floor to this bill when it last left to make clear that we would eliminate all materials and components of clean energy technology if it's manufactured or procured from countries that utilize child slave labor. It should be a common sense amendment that we all take a stand for at least that level of a threshold, and we added that in a very strong bipartisan vote on this Senate floor, and that part got stripped out in the conference committee as well as an amendment we had for adding wood waste and wood chips to be considered biomass and exempt from RES standards. And the conference committee even removed a reporting amendment that was recommended by nonpartisan fiscal staff, which was accepted as a friendly amendment in the conference committee. Or I think not the conference committee, the regular energy committee before this came to the floor. And it's amazing that the conference committee even stripped that piece out. And finally, Mr. President, the process of this conference committee left much to be desired. It was sorely lacking in many areas. This conference committee was a 9-to-1 conference committee. 5 DFL members in the House, 4 DFL, and 1 Republican members on the Senate side. And the experience of our Republican Senate conferee was that, with very rare exceptions, she was often kept in the dark until the very moment that it was time to vote on portions of the bill. She indicated that at one point she was only given a 4-minute heads up that there was going to be a meeting and there was going to be votes on a portion of the bill. She said to the chair's credit, to Senator Frentz's credit, he did try to help preview offers with her for the energy side, but often did not see what was going on the environment side of this bill until the moment that it was time to vote. There was no public input in this conference committee by and large, and that's been an unfortunate theme that I've been hearing from many of our members as we've been watching the conference committees play out the last few weeks. So there's much to be desired. There's still time. The conference committee can go back and get this right. They should get some of these strong bipartisan or frankly common sense pieces put back in this bill and bring a better bill back to this floor. Thank you, Mr. President.
We're on the motion to reject the conference committee report. I'm going to Senator Weissenberg.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. I would support Matthew's motion to reject this. I feel like we were left out of the conversation. It would have been nice to partake in a conference committee in a area such as the environment that I understand and have worked in for over 2 decades. I was thinking about what I should say when I was on the floor yesterday in my office, and I had a couple ministers walk into my room, and they gave me a donut. And the first thing I did was I split it in half and I gave it to my LA. Because I guess that's how I was raised, is we need to share and we need to work together. And I think that's what we need to do here, is there should have been more bipartisan work, and that didn't happen. We can't regulate the environment. We have to do the science and listen to the biology, and there's things in this bill that I think are not great. There are things that were removed that cost no money. Like Mark Johnson had a thing in here to let deer stands stay up until January 1st. That costs no money. It's not controversial, but it was taken out because it's a Republican issue. No, that's just ridiculous. We talked about the rifle stuff that got removed. That's something the DNR wanted. The 2 people that didn't want rifles in their counties got that, but for whatever reason, that was taken out of this. We've got $2 million for PFAS stuff on page 17 on Lake Superior. And it says $2 million the first year is for a grant to St. Louis County to plan, design, and construct one or more facilities, structures, or other solutions to protect Lake Superior from Lake Superior and other waters in the Great Lakes watershed from PFAS contamination from landfills. Well, MPCA was there during this debate, and they said this doesn't exist. So we're giving money to St. Louis County for a problem that doesn't even exist. So where's this money going? And why are we giving them $2 million for something that they said isn't there? That makes no sense to me. Go to page 27. We've got the Upper Mississippi Headwaters Board. When I worked for the state, the Upper Mississippi Headwaters Board existed, and now they're saying they need $250,000 to implement a comprehensive plan for the Upper Mississippi Headwaters Board. I don't know if maybe this is just a salary and we do this every couple of years, but it would seem like an organization that's been around a long time should know how to implement their plans. I have a little bit more here to go, Mr. President. Page 36. We've got $5 million for the Upper Sioux Agency transfer. I was told when this came to environmental, this would be free and it would cost nothing. Well, that's at least $5 million right there. So that's not a free transfer. We're taxing people, and that's going to cost people money. I think I would have rather had someone tell me it's not going to be free, not lied to, and it would be easier to talk about it. But we can't come into the conversation saying it's free. It won't cost anybody anything. We can't be lying to people. We have a lot of good stuff in here on pollinators, which maybe people don't understand, and hopefully maybe they do understand. We need to have probably more money on pollinators, because if we run out of bees, if our bees die, because our bees are not going extinct, but they're becoming threatened, we need pollinators to have food. So I'd like to see some of this money. I guess what I'm getting at is there's money in places where it doesn't need to be, and it could be put in other places. We're spending $600,000 to study foxes and coyotes in the metro. Well, we already know. I could tell you that. Give me $600,000. I can tell you the biology of foxes and coyotes in metro areas. We could spend that money on something else. We're spending $400,000 to look at how archery hunting will affect deer in Bemidji. We already know that. We've already done those studies in urban areas. We don't need to spend $400,000 to study how archery hunting will affect deer in Bemidji. We already have that data. So where's that money going? I guess my point is there's a lot of money in here that is being misappropriated, and it should be, if we're going to be spending the money, we need to spend it more wisely, not just have this a political bill. This bill needs to go back. We need to go through it again, and we need to do what's best for the people in the state. And that's not just, you know, a one-sided bill, but that's what this is. I would say we should send this back to conference committee. Thank you, Mr. President.
The good senator from Olivia, Senator Lang.
Thank you, Mr. President. And members, I won't make this too long. You know, I've voted for every environment bill that has left the Senate chamber for the last 7 years. And I don't think I'm going to be able to support this one today. I do want to just say thank you to Senator Herr for his leadership on the committee. He is a very gracious senator, and he's a very gracious chair with his time and with the conversation. So, however, I would like to just go over a few things in the bill that I'm concerned with, and I'd like to just chat for a couple of minutes if we could. So if Senator Herr could just yield to a question.
Senator Herr, will you yield? He will yield. Senator Lang.
Thank you, Mr. President. And my first question has something to do with the motorboat education language that's in the bill. We did have this discussion during committee several times, and we included the DNR and several of the invested members that are from lakes throughout Minnesota, but in particular, we talked about some of the exemptions. And Senator Herr, if you could just clarify for me, on page 187, subdivision 5, it talks about, and 6 actually, motorboat rental businesses and resort businesses. And this is something that I thought we had come to some sort of a consensus on, that those are being exempted. But if we go into the next page, could you just clarify, are resorts exempted from this or are they not? Because on the next page, it does talk about the water safety program. That water safety program, and I won't go into detail about it, but section 26, it's almost like the bill is a little contradictory. Could you just clarify whether a resort is exempt from this, from renting to people that do have a license or do not have a license, as well as some of those motorboat rental businesses?
Senator Herr, to the question.
Thank you, Senator Lane, for posing a very good question there. And just want to clarify that the resort is exempted, and the language that you see in the bill here actually requests by the resort themselves.
Senator Lang.
I didn't quite hear, Mr. President.
He said the resorts are exempted, and in fact, the language that you referred to in the bill came from the resorts.
Okay.
That's my understanding. Is that correct, Senator Herr?
That is correct. And
thank you, Mr. President. I think that is a good thing. I think it's very important for our resort owners in the state of Minnesota that they are not required to check licensing or check whether or not the people they're renting a boat to have this safety certificate. And if Senator Herr would just, one more question for him.
Senator Herr, will you yield? He will yield. Senator Lang.
Thank you, Mr. President. The next question is we had a very good discussion, I thought, in committee, and I think we had a rather robust conclusion and consensus among the members on the committee, because we had said, and we talked about this 25 horsepower and under low-powered vehicles. We had a pretty good amendment, actually, that I got to offer, and it got talked about several times in committee. Senator Hoffman in particular, myself, the DNR was involved with that. And when the bill came back from conference committee, I noticed that that amendment, which I think would work in concert with the bill pretty well, was removed. Can you, Senator Hurd, just enlighten me a little bit on why we would remove that amendment?
Senator Hurd to the question.
Thank you, Senator Lane, for asking a question that could be educational to folks out there. So we removed the 25 horsepower because it's not necessary for minor for 12 years old and less.
Senator Lang.
Sorry, Mr. President, I was just trying to digest that answer. So, Senator Hurd, could you repeat that one more time, and with maybe a little bit of clarification on the fact of if a young operator that is not required to have a license in the state of Minnesota, is that young operator exempted? Because and this is the confusing part, Senator Hurd, because now the 75 horsepower portion of the bill that became confusing during committee is now again in the bill, which the amendment fixed that. It made it clear, it made it understandable, it made it so that anybody that was under the age of a young operator was still capable of operating that low-powered vehicle that we talked about. So could you clarify just one more time, saying that these people, or these young operators, are exempt from taking that course, and they shall still be allowed to operate a vehicle that has 75 horsepower or less?
Senator Hurd.
Mr. President and Senator Lane, the question Senator Lane asked, and is posing a question that why has it been removed, and I think before we going further on the information is not correct there. There's some language in the bill still on the 25 horsepower. We will sort it out where it is in the bill so that
Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Lane can.
I got my question answered.
Okay, hold on, gentlemen. Okay, you are ready, Senator Lang?
Thumbs
Senator
up,
Lang.
Mr. President. So, Mr. President, I don't. I'm sorry, I did say one more question for Senator Hurd, but I do have another question, and then
You can
I'll
ask as many questions as you like, Senator Lang.
Thank you, Mr. President. If Senator Hurd would I'm going to move on topics here, but if he would yield for one more question.
Senator Hurd, I almost said Senator Hurd, will you Lang? Did you hear that? Okay, Senator Hurd, will you yield? He will yield. Senator Lang.
Well, thank you, Senator Hurd and Mr. President. Senator Hurd, one of the most probably controversial topics that we talked about during the committee hearings this year, I would say, is the chronic wasting disease and how that relates to deer farms within the state of Minnesota. And the question I'm going to ask, I think, is relevant to the discussion we're going to have here tonight. And the question I was going to ask is, do you remember when John Jaski, member of the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources, testified in committee? And I asked a question, and I thought it was fairly poignant at the time, and I thought it made a good point. The question was, how many CWD positive tests were at these deer farms that were under discussion and possibly would be under the thumb of the moratorium that is in this bill? Do you remember what he said for positive tests, the most recent test?
Senator Hurd.
Mr. President and Senator Lane, it's a while back, and I don't remember exactly what his word was. But I do recall you asked a question in that nature.
Senator Lane.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Senator Hurd, and I appreciate that answer. But the poignant part of this is, and the most important part of this is, that he said zero. There was zero CWD positive tests in their most recent testing at deer farms in the state of Minnesota. And that is substantial, members. We have a bill that, and I know Senator Morrison will probably not like what I'm about ready to say, but this is an industry-killing bill within this environment bill. We are killing the deer farming industry in the state of Minnesota. And that is not something this body should be doing. That is not something we should be doing because we don't like what they do for a living. This is these are not rich farmers. This is not an expansive industry. This is a group of people that have gotten together and found a niche that they have been able to make some money for their family, provide well, for a lot, they can provide a lot of different things for a lot of different people, but it's so poignant. And the one thing that I've never really been understand is these deer farmers are an asset to the state of Minnesota. These deer farmers have done something that we, the DNR, the state of Minnesota, and all the hunters have been failing to accomplish, and that's they have genetically eliminated CWD. I'm going to repeat that. They've genetically eliminated CWD within their deer farms. Now, that wasn't an easy task for them to complete. That wasn't something that they did because they don't care about their industry, don't care about deer. That was something they did to protect themselves, protect their industry, and honestly, probably they have an opportunity, and the DNR should grasp this opportunity. This bill should say, how do we work with deer farmers together to do away with this chronic wasting disease, this horrible, debilitating disease that our deer have in the state of Minnesota. But instead, we're going to shut them down. I don't see the logic in that. Mr. President, there's another thing that this bill has in it that I can't give Senator Herr enough credit for. When this bill left committee, it didn't have any fee increases in it. And that was something I was fairly proud of. But now it does, of course. It came back from conference committee and we have fee increases. And they're not small, folks. They're not little. These are substantial fee increases. One of them in particular, let's talk about boat fee increases. The lowest percent increase of boats in the state of Minnesota is going to be a 78% increase. The highest is 151%. If you own a jet ski in the state of Minnesota, you're going to pay 127% more. It goes from $37 to $85, Mr. President. That's a substantial increase for a jet ski. There's a long list of these, but the one that, that kind of stuck out to me is poor pontoon owners. Now, pontoons can be very expensive, but they can also be that $3,000 putter that goes around the lake in northern Minnesota. And I know that on the lake that I have access to, that's really all that's out there. Those people, if it's a less than 26-foot boat, the $45, the $15 a year they used to pay for that very cheap vehicle, now it's going to be $113. That's a 151% increase. If it's a little bigger than that, 26-foot pontoon, which really isn't that big, their $67 fee is now going to be a $165 fee. That's a 143% increase. Now, the thing that really worries me is just recently, Commissioner Stroman has made very open remarks about the fact that she's going to be going after increased fees as well. Well, Mr. President, I just don't think that I can support a bill that kills an industry, makes it harder for these resort owners to rent a boat, makes it more expensive for the average Minnesota boat owner to register their vehicle, and to be honest, I don't even like the fact that Senator Johnson can't have his deer stand out overnight. So, Mr. President, I would suggest a red vote, or excuse me, a green vote on the motion to reject. Thank you, Mr. President.
The good senator from Foston, Senator Green.
Thank you, Mr. President. I do have a few things in the bill. Some of them have been brought up, and as usual, I will not repeat the ones that have been brought up, but I might expand on a couple. One thing I am going to talk about, first of all, has been one of my key issues around here, Mr. President, and that is the fact that the state continues to buy land. And this bill not only continues to do that, in this bill, in my opinion, it's doing it in kind of a sneaky way as well. Because in this bill, there's a transfer of land to the Upper Sioux community. Now, as I stated in the committee, it doesn't really make any difference to me who owns the public land. It's public land. But in this bill, there's $5 million in here that's going to require the state to go purchase the same amount of land somewhere else. And I just don't agree with that. I think that's a bad policy. We have a ton of land in Minnesota. In fact, we haven't gotten an update on the amount of state and federal lands in Minnesota since about 2011. And at that time, the amount of land that was owned was just under 30%. Now, I've been using the figure now when I talk about this to say that there's probably about a third of the state right now that is no longer in private hands and is publicly owned, and I haven't gotten any pushback on that. And so every time we pass a bill, whether it's an environmental bill of any kind, sometimes others as well, there's more land that's being purchased out. And yet we have to keep in mind, like I've said many times, that what we're doing is we're taking property away from young people, whether they're farmers, whether they're just young folks that want to own their own piece of property, because they're not going to be able to afford it, because the more we buy, the more the land that's left out there is valued at, and we're pricing it right out of the hands of people that maybe don't have a lot of money. And so we're going to end up with only very rich people owning land, and your common person is not going to be able to own any. And this is very disturbing to me. And I would love to see that would, in the very least, slow down. But it doesn't seem to be. I'm just going to expound a little bit on the CWD part of this. And I've said for a long time that I don't even think that the DNR has any intention of trying to get rid of CWD. I think it's a cash cow for them. We spend millions upon millions of dollars to study. But in the only area where we have the ability to go into a confined area like a deer farm and actually do good work like they are doing, as Senator Lang said, there's 0 cases of CWD in the deer farms. And on those, we're trying to kill that industry. And obviously, we're trying to kill the industry. There's not even a question about it with the language in this bill, even to the fact where if you own a deer farm and you want to transfer it to your son or your daughter, you can only do it once. And they then, on the other hand, if they wanted to pass it on to their children, could not do that. And so there's no question about the fact that we're trying to ruin an industry. And I want to tell you a little bit about these deer farmers. A great number of them were actually farmers in their own right, and they didn't own enough land to be able to make a living farming their small acreage and compete with the bigger farmers in the industry that can afford, or whether they can afford or not, they're buying the bigger tractors and the bigger equipment and selling on bulk, as opposed to just the person that used to own 300 to 500 acres. They can't do it anymore. And so because they wanted to keep their farm and keep their family business going, they transferred over to something that they thought would work, and it was working, and they were doing a good job. But now the state comes in, and because somebody doesn't like that business, we're just trying to eliminate it. And just for the record, like I said, we're pouring a ton of money into CWD, but in the years that they've been testing this, from 2000 to 2021, there were 120,000 deer tested for CWD in Minnesota. 120,000 deer were tested. Out of that 120,000 deer, 194 tested positive. That's a 0.16% average of deer over the course of those years. And now we're getting down to a point where the deer farmers have 0. So obviously, the deer farms are the way to go if we want to find answers to to the CWD and what we have out there. Another area in the bill, the amount of money that's being spent. And this is something that I don't really understand why we want to do this, but it's $110 million to modernize outdoor recreational experiences. And I've seen some of the things that they want to do, and for me, it's like saying we're trying to get people out into the nature, let them experience, and I love nature. I love being out there. Sometimes when I hunt, I don't even hunt. I just go out there and sit quietly. It's a great place to be. But now we want to modernize it so that we can take the kids who are couch potatoes and sit in front of the TV all day and put them out in the woods and put them in a camper and let them still be couch potatoes. We don't need to do that. We have $1.6 million in here to, it says, fostering conservation by connecting students to the Boundary Waters Canoe Area, excuse me. $1.6 million. why do we need to do that? Why does the state and why does the government think that they have to come in and take tax dollars to try to do something that people can do themselves? Doesn't make any sense. Here's another thing. This is a small amount of money in this body, but for me it's not a small amount of money. It's $180,000 to reduce biophobia. And I would be willing to bet most people don't even know what biophobia is. I know I didn't. I had to look it up. And it's a fear of nature. We have a fear of everything. And we expound on it. We use it. We use it to takes more taxpayers' dollars. We use it to put fear into people. Everything has to be a phobia. And we just constantly barrage people with this. And I don't even have any idea what reducing biophobia would look like. But we're spending $180,000 on it. And this is another thing here. There's $1.4 million in here to create habitats in schoolyards. And if this is what I believe it is, I think it's a very foolish thing to do. Because for a while there was policy being pushed out there that we wanted to put pollinator-friendly plants into schoolyards. Well, I have a granddaughter and a son who are allergic to bees. They have to carry a Narcan pen with them. And so I think that out of all the land we have, 1/3 of the state out there is either in federal or public hands. And now we feel that we have to put habitats in schoolyards. It's crazy. And this one here is another one that you might not think is much money, but it is $200,000. And for people out there, if there's anybody listening, it's called Bugs Below Zero. We're engaging citizens in winter research to raise awareness about the winter life of bugs. That is wonderful. I wonder how far that money would go for nursing homes, but that's another story. I'll touch a little bit on the energy portion. The bill left here with $5 million for the Green Bank, and it came back with $45 million for the Green Bank. And for what that is it's a pot of taxpayer dollars that we're going to stick out there, and we're going to give it in loans to I would assume cities, or maybe it's anybody, it just says 4 green energy projects. It just keeps going on and on and on. It's so foolish. If you're out there working for money, I don't know how many people in this body actually have had a real job. Money doesn't come easy. And we're taking tax dollars and we're throwing it out there for projects and things that it sounds like somebody dreamed up somewhere and thinks it's good. On page 6.8 of the bill, modeling for greenhouse gas. And whenever I see the word modeling, I always get very concerned, because what that is somebody is taking an idea that they have, plugging it into a computer somewhere, and telling the computer, give me the outcome of whatever I'm dreaming up. That's what modeling is. We're spending money on that. We have, at a quick look through this bill, we have over $40 million at least going into the study of PFAS, something that I guess we just outlawed. Just for the sake of information, Maine did this very same thing, and to the best of my knowledge, they've just had to put in about 2,500 new restrictions on their restrictions. They had to pull back that many because industry can't operate without it. I want to end with one thing here, and I have some relatives in California, and so this kind of hits home with me, and this was given to me by somebody that lives there, and they've implemented all the energy, the clean green energy stuff that we're trying to put forth now this year, so that we put forth in the blackout bill, and now that we're expanding on in this bill. And this person says that before they started this, his electric bill was $116 a month. And it crept up to $150. Right now it's $700 a month. And even with a $700 a month electric bill, they can't use any electricity from 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. every day because that's how little electricity that they have. And his insurance rates have doubled because his appliances keep going bad on him because of the blackouts and the brownouts, shutting off the electricity and turning it back on. This is what we have to look forward to. And so if I don't feel too enthused about these bills, these are some of the reasons why. I think it would be very, very productive for us to send this back to committee and actually address these problems. We tried to bring some of them up, but somewhere along the line, I don't know, I guess the House won out because we didn't get them. Now, I've got a long list of stuff here that I can see that I'm not going to get through tonight. So, Mr. President, for right now, we'll see how much time is left when other people are done speaking, but for now, I'll just encourage a yes vote on the motion to send this back to committee.
Now going to the good senator from Brook Park, Senator Eric.
Thank you, Mr. President. Unfortunately, Mr. President, once again I rise to support a motion to reject the conference committee report and send it back because we are just not following a process that involves the public and allows them to know what is happening and what is coming forward. And as we've heard earlier, not only does the public not know what's coming forward at times, conference committee members in this one didn't always know what was coming forward at times. This is not the process that the Minnesota legislature should be following when putting forth the laws for the state of Minnesota. Especially things that are so significant. There are a number of provisions in the bill that I do not agree with. But again, I understand my way of thinking is not going to prevail. I don't have the votes on my side. But I still believe that we should have the process. We should have the public input. And we should have things, explanations given, reasons given in that conference committee why something is taken out, why something is added. There are a number of provisions that others have already talked about that were in the bill when they left the Senate floor. A few of them, amendments that were offered that passed unanimously. And without any real understanding why, once again, they're gone. The people of Minnesota deserve to know why. Yet that explanation was not given in conference committee. They just showed up, made a quick vote, if they made a vote, and then that's what we're going to be stuck with. And later we'll be able to try to understand why, maybe. But this is something that we absolutely should be taking the time, and especially in energy, having that nonpartisan vote, having Republicans and Democrats who are voting for it, to know that we are moving forward with an energy future that is going to be good for the state of Minnesota. Mr. President, I heard it, it said this is adding on to the bill we did earlier this year and will help make us emission neutral. Mr. President, that's something that, some of our amendments that we offered, we're looking at this to go beyond this idea of being emission neutral. Because, Mr. President, what does that mean, we're emission neutral? That's just a way of feeling good, but it's not making a real difference. We're using carbon-free energy that's being produced in other states that equals the amount that we use here in Minnesota. But then those areas are going to use energy maybe produced here or in other places that are not. Are we truly making a difference? I don't believe we are. We're just shifting the numbers around. We get to feel like in Minnesota that we're making a difference, when in reality, the emissions haven't changed. Do we want to make a real difference, Mr. President? We offered amendments, some of which were accepted, that would actually start moving towards making that difference. It matters where our resources come from as we move towards this new energy future. Are they going to come from a place where we follow environmental standards and where we have wage protections and where we have worker protections? Are they going to come from areas of the world that don't follow any environmental standards, that don't have protections for the workers, that don't have protections around as the resources are being refined and manufactured? If you believe that putting up wind and solar around the state of Minnesota that was mined, processed, and manufactured in areas of the world where they follow zero environmental regulations and zero worker protections, you're not quite the environmental activist you think you are. And you're not making a difference. We had the amendments to address that, and they came out in conference committee. Mr. President, this should go back to conference committee, have those discussions, and if we really want to be environmentally friendly and move towards a clean energy future, we should readopt those provisions so that we are getting our resources from places where we follow environmental regulations and we protect workers. Vote yes on this proposal.
The good senator from Grand Rapids, Senator Icorn.
Thank you, Mr. President. And this year it appears that the blackout bill is hitting the legislature much harder before the rest of the state. And that's exactly what we saw with this conference committee, was darkness, like many of the others. This conference committee, specifically by some of what we would maybe call the chattering class around this building, described it as one of the biggest sham conference committees they've ever seen, by both partisan, nonpartisan staff, members of the minority, lobbyists, and even some members of the majority commented how poor the process was and that there was a desire to improve it in the future. Our own conferee, Senator Coleman, was asked to sign the conference committee report with no knowledge of what was in the agreement. The energy portion of the bill had a few sames and similars adopted the week of May 1st, and then didn't have any additional discussion or adoption of any energy provisions until May 17th, a full 12 hours after the conference committee was signed. There were occasions during the adoption of the environment provisions in the conference committee where nonpartisans didn't know what was being adopted. Minority and majority members didn't know what was being adopted. And even the chair at the time didn't know what was being adopted, and things were just voted on. There were Senate Republican members that desired to have amendments offered, and we were told that either the language was in the bill, when often it wasn't, or they were informed that they needed to wait until the right time or place to offer those amendments, and that time never came. Members, I'm going to save my comments about the bulk of the bill until third reading, but this is a bill that was done in darkness again. Members, let's fire up our wind, our solar, our coal-fired power plants, our hydro, our nuclear. Let's turn the lights back on and let Minnesotans see what we're doing here so they know what we're voting on before we vote on it, so they have an opportunity to weigh in, which they didn't have here. Members, please vote green on Senator Matthews' motion to send this back to conference committee so we can shine some light on this place once again.
Now to the great senator from Faribault, Senator Jasinski.
Thank you, Mr. President. That's pronounced Faribault. The L and T are silent, but I tried to prep you for that, but you weren't going to listen to me, were you? So anyways, thank you, Mr. President, and I would also urge to reject the committee report, but I do want to say thank you to Senator Herr. One very important project in my district that was included, so I really want to thank him for that. That's something I spent a lot of time working with Senator Hur on, and he was open. So it's the one thing in this bill that I'm happy about. But there are several that concern me. Many of those have been brought up. I'm not going to continue on because we want to get out of here at some portion early tonight. But I do have some concerns also a little bit on the environment side. This is Minnesota, the land of 10,000 lakes. And looking at the fee increases for boating, again, land of 10,000 lakes, and we're seeing fee increases of 151% for a boat license. 151%, folks. Is that really the message we want to send to the tourism Minnesota and our 10,000 lakes? We're increasing 127%, 110%, 100%, 119%, 143%, 132% increases. Folks, these are huge. This is not promoting our state for tourism in the land of 10,000 lakes. We have requirements for testing our small mom and pop resorts across our state, and those 10,000 lakes are going to suffer, so I have some concerns with that. And then on the energy side, we all want clean energy. I understand that, but we're going to put huge burdens on our residents with higher costs for that. Currently, right now, we're using 15% renewable. If you look at the MISO app right now, 15%. And if Minnesotans don't think it's going to cost us more to convert over to more renewable energy and see that on their bills, they're mistaken, because those fees are going to be passed on. And I don't know what the drive for all these fee increases are this year, not only in this bill, but as you'll see in transportation coming up later sometime in the next 4 days, you're seeing an increase in almost every portion of transportation that you can. From increased fees for motor vehicle sales tax, to license tabs, to tab charges, to gas tax, you name it. And that's not the only bill. We are going to tax Minnesotans right out of this state. And if you don't think it's happening right now, wait for a couple years, because these fees and increases are going to increase, and we're going to push people right out of Minnesota. So again, but I do want to thank Senator Hur, because he has worked really well with me on that. So Senator Hur, if I vote against this, it's nothing against what you've done for my district. So thank you, Mr. President.
Next is the good senator from Moorhead, Senator Kupek.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would just like to request a roll call.
Roll call requested, roll call granted. The good senator from Redwood Falls, Senator Dames.
Well, thank you, Mr. President. And first, I'd like to thank Senator Hur for his work on the environmental part of this bill, and Senator Friends for his work on the energy part of the bill. There are some good parts in the bill, but there are some things that really do concern me, and one of them is the fact that we're going to be employing 285 new people, 285 new jobs created in this bill. You know, the last week we've passed a lot of bills that have put a lot of pressure on small businesses, increasing their costs considerably. The other thing that's been happening is kind of in a dual track is just about every bill is creating a lot of new employees for the state of Minnesota. And I think it's really unfortunate when state of Minnesota is not a tax-producing organization. They're a service-producing organization, and unfortunately, not very efficient at it in many cases. So not only are we putting pressure on the small businesses and all businesses financially, we also put pressure on them by taking a lot of people out of the labor market that otherwise would be in private industry, and I think that's really unfortunate. The DNR is going to hire 130 new people, PCA 137, and Bowser 18. And I think that those numbers are just really getting up there. Another thing that's already been covered, but it's the survey farming, and if people don't think they're going to be put out of business, well, then they're probably not paying too much attention to what's happening, because when you limit when you can sell your farming operation and who you can sell it to, when you limit how you can move and transfer your animals, and if you don't move and transfer animals, you're not going to be able to build a hybrid herd that you want, and I think that's unfortunate that we have taken after that. But this isn't the only bill that's done that. Other bills have taken after small business and tried to shut them down too. So that's, I guess, is something to be more common than what we thought. Certainly the fee increases on the boats, and that's been mentioned a couple of times, but when you can go from the lowest fee increase is 56% to the highest increase is 151%, that's quite surprising with a $19 billion surplus, and with the taxes that are being raised and the fees that are being raised. It's just amazing how much money is going to be spent when we get out of here on Monday night. The other thing is that we talk about those fees. There's $22 million in new fees between new and in fee increases between PCA and DNR. That's $22 million. Of that $22 million, $15 million of that is coming out of the boat increases. So I hope the public is aware of what's coming, because this state's going to look a lot different August 1st than it does now, and all these new fees and all this new legislation and stuff is kicking in. Thank you, members.
Members, we're going to the good senator from Buffalo, Senator Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Appreciate the opportunity. This bill needs to go back to the conference committee, and I appreciate Senator Matthews bringing forward the motion to reject the conference committee report. Members, we're talking here in this bill that we're going to try and teach young people about community, about our outdoor, our out environments, create habitats for people to engage in the public, to be welcoming to what we have here, the resources, the lakes, the forests, the prairies here in Minnesota. And yet, we're going to take away, according to this, and I'm guessing this is coming from the Department of Natural Resources, or as my father used to say, damn near Russia. Basically, this outfit wants to get rid of deer farming survey days in this state. They don't like what they're doing. They don't like the fact that veterinarians have come forward in committee and ag committee and others to say that they are this close, if not already, been able to contain the CWD that is being outlined here that they're afraid of in this bill. And I truly believe that if they wanted to teach young people, especially those people who live close to these survey farms that are interested in deer farming and deer and elk and others, that this would be a good way to continue to reach out to young people and engage them in what we have as, I would say, a natural resources, although they say the survey day is unnatural. And so, Mr. President, a lot of the things that I would love to say have already been said, but the big thing I was concerned about and wanting to see this bill go back is the getting rid of or further putting in more regulatory regulatory regulations on the survey day deer farmers here in the state of Minnesota. And members, I would appreciate a green vote, Senator Matthews' vote. No, motion. Thank you.
The good senator from Princeton, Senator Matthews, before we vote.
Thank you, Mr. President. We had a robust discussion on this and would urge members to vote green on the motion to reject.
The secretary will take the roll on the motion to reject the conference committee report. Members, please vote. Senator Morrison, for those voting under Rule 40.7.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Mann votes no.
Senator Mann votes no.
Senator Putnam votes no.
Senator Putnam votes no.
Senator Rest votes no.
Senator Rest votes no.
Senator Wickland votes no.
Senator Wickland votes no.
Senator McEwen votes no.
Senator McEwen votes no.
Okay. And that is all, Mr. President. Thank you.
Senator Jasinski, for those voting under Rule 40.7.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Coleman votes aye.
Senator Coleman votes aye.
Senator Duckworth votes aye.
Senator Duckworth votes aye. Members, we are waiting for one more person. This is probably a good time to remind us to stay near the chamber. I know you're here, right? I got it. Oh, you just want me to close it right now? No. And I guess maybe I should remind the person that's not here to stay near the chamber, right? The people who are here, hear it. No, this is a good time. Just a friendly reminder for us all.
Mr. President.
For what purpose do you rise?
Thank you, Mr. President. I move absent members be excused from voting.
On that motion, all in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. The motion prevails. The secretary, all senators having voted who desires to vote, the secretary will close the roll. There being 33 ayes and 33 noes, the motion does not prevail. Members, we are on the underlining motions. Senator Friends. Senator Friends.
Mr. President, I'd like to request a roll call.
Roll call requested, roll call granted. Any other discussion? The secretary will give the bill, excuse me, the secretary will take the roll on adoption of the committee report. Senators, please vote. This is a good reminder that people need to stay near the chambers.
Mr. President?
Senator Jasinski, for those voting under Rule 40.7.
I'll report my one vote. Senator Coleman votes no.
Senator Coleman votes no. Senator Morrison, for those who are voting under Rule 40.7.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Mann votes aye.
Senator Mann votes aye.
Senator Putnam votes aye.
Senator Putnam votes aye.
Senator Rest votes aye.
Senator Rest votes aye.
Senator Wickland votes aye.
Senator Wickland votes aye.
Senator McEwen votes aye.
Senator McEwen votes aye.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. President?
Senator Jasinski, I thought you said you have one vote.
I apologize,
Senator
Mr. President. Senator Duckworth votes no.
Senator Duckworth votes no. All senators having voted who desire to vote, the secretary will close the roll. There being 34 ayes and 33 noes, the conference committee report is adopted. Seeing no further discussion, the secretary will give the bill its third reading.
House File Number 2310, a bill for an act relating to state government appropriating money for environment, natural resources, climate, and energy.
Third reading. Those who want to be on third reading. Senator Eichhorn.
Thank you, Mr. President, and said I would save my comments for third reading, so here we are. Minnesotans have a long and proud tradition of protecting and caring for the outdoors. We have an extensive natural resources that contribute to our economy, both for development, agriculture, personal enjoyment, and tourism. Unfortunately, this bill fails to find the middle ground that protects both our natural resources and responsibility that supports the natural resources development economy across the state. This bill spends huge amounts of money and then makes it harder for taxpayers across the state to live in concert with our natural resources, working with and developing our natural resources for farming, mining, timber, recreation, which is all our way of life in northern Minnesota. The Environment Bill provides $1 billion for Environment and Natural Resources section, which represents a 67% spending increase, which is unsustainable and probably why we see some of the fee increases that we see in here today. It greatly expands powers for state agencies and commissioners who will be given free rein to make decisions and changes to many programs that will be created should this bill be adopted, creates hundreds of new FTEs, contains massive amounts of one-time spending, transfers the Upper Sioux State Agency State Park, creates watercraft safety program that will make it onerous for individuals who come from out of states to stay at our resorts. They'll have to take a written test. The boating fees, as were mentioned earlier, and the huge increases there, Senator Herr, we do appreciate that the fees on the other fees were removed, but for those individuals in the state of Minnesota who are excited to get their $250 check back from Governor Walz, you can expect to send it right back to the state if you have a boat to pay for your boat, increased boat fees. Other notable provisions in the bill, we have it speaks to what we do have money for and what we don't have money for. What we don't have money for, nursing homes. What we do have money for, $110 million to modernize recreational experiences via efforts to advertise to new users. It shocks me that we can spend $110 million there, but we can't find a few dollars for nursing homes. Fostering conservation by connecting students to the boundary waters. We're going to teach kids about how bad mining is for $1.6 million. We're going to spend $180,000 to reduce biophobia, and like Senator Green, I have no clue what that even means. $1.4 million for community schoolyards to engage students and communities to create habitats in schoolyards. This one blows my mind. $200,000 to engage citizens about what it's like to be a bug in the winter, but yet we can't find a few dollars for nursing homes. Members, this bill, I think, is more controversial than when it left. I do appreciate that a few of the fees are there, and I will mention the Commissioner Stroman quote. She had a little Arnold Schwarzenegger moment when she said, quote, "We'll be back for those fees at the next opportunity." Members, with a near $20 billion surplus, we don't need more taxes, more fees. What Minnesotans expect is an environment bill that serves all Minnesotans, not the special interest groups, lobbying groups, environment groups that ultimately wrote the provisions in this bill. I'm strongly disappointed in the product that we're sending out of this chamber today and wish there was some provisions that I could be excited to vote yes for, but unfortunately that's not the case. I'm going to keep my comments today to the environment portions of the bill because that's my subject area, but there are plenty of reasons to vote no in both the environment and the energy portions of this bill. Members, I would encourage a no vote.
Senator Wiesenberg.
Thank you, Mr. President. I didn't say this before, but I did enjoy being on the Environmental Committee, and I thank Senator Herr for his graciousness in listening to us while we were in committee. We did work to get a lot of work done, and then unfortunately some did not make it in the final bill. There's a few things I would like to say about we did talk about the minnow importation. We're doing that to help people in the state, and that bill is going to pass, and we're going to use that to help bait shops and fishermen to get minnows. So I did have a conversation with Bob Meyer, and I was frustrated about that conversation that we had last week. He said just because the bill is going to pass doesn't mean that we're going to do that. So we'll get the bill passed, but we're not going to be importing minnows. So I got on the phone and I started calling some people, and it sounds like now that got overturned, and we're going to be working with people. And that's our job, is to work with people. We can't just say we're not going to do it because of some fake thing that is a fairy tale. So I'm happy that got through. There's a turtle fee, so it's $25 to buy a turtle license. We got that down to $5. It's back up to $25. My concern there is if we have a $25 turtle fee, people aren't going to pay $25 in case they might see a turtle on the road and they want to grab it. So that nobody's going to be buying that license. They're just going to pick up turtles, and it's not going to be enforceable. On page 39, we got $10 million. Lang did talk about this, and a few other people talked about the CWD and the deer farms, but we have $10 million to basically, it looks like, investigate deer farmers and try to shut deer farms down. Well, I think DFL stands for Democrat Farmer Labor, and deer farmers are farmers. And we did talk about how we have changed the genetics of the deer in farms to get rid of CWD. So we should be working forward and helping them, not trying to get rid of deer farms. We're spending $2.3 million to introduce elk to the Fond du Lac Forest up by Duluth. Now, we were just looking at the cost of state and the damage that the elk caused to that area. I think that's a waste of money. And then neonics. We've had neonics around for 35 years, and we're spending sorry, I didn't write down how much. We're spending money to see if neonics are hurting our deer herd and other animals. Well, if our other animals and deer herd were hurting by neonics, which have been around for 35 years, we would observe that, when in fact our animal populations are very healthy. So we could deduce that neonics aren't hurting them because the animals are just fine. So that's another waste of money in this bill. And we're spending $65,000 to write a report on what we would do if feral pigs come into Minnesota. Well, I can tell you what we need to do is trap them or shoot them because they're feral and not let them run around. There's a lot of wasted money in here. I think that Money could have been spent better in other places, and I would suggest a no vote on this bill. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Senator Hurd will be our last speaker. Oh, Senator Friends, then Senator Hurd.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thanks, members, for a good discussion, asking for a green vote on final passage of this energy and environment bill. Members, everything's been said. We're trying to reduce carbon emissions. We're trying to provide stability to the electric grid. A couple things that went discussed here. First of all, the Green Bank language is in the jobs bill. The money for the roof of the National Sports Center is being carried at $800,000 in the state government bill, for those that had that question. We're providing money for heat pumps, electric panel upgrades, upgrades to school air ventilation, electric vehicles, school buses, green fertilizer. Do you know why that's important for us, for our agriculture community? Because it costs a lot of carbon emissions to make fertilizer, and the $7 million here is going to allow us to tap the potential to do it a better way. We're funding the Department of Commerce. We're funding the Public Utilities Commission. I want to thank both those departments for the work they do. The Public Utilities Commission is expert at utility regulation, cost analysis, and some advice too. Stay tuned on the PUC. The St. Thomas Microgrid project is funded here in this bill. That is just up the street and helping us to get the next generation. Members, it's a good bill. Vote green.
Senator Hurd.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you to all members and also the members who had rights to speak. I want the one that already thought about voting no or spoke about voting no to also think twice too, because we are in historical moment here. I want to make a few corrections earlier. There were a few points that was mentioned that are not correct to our bill. For example, the deer stand overnight, that is in the bill. Just to be accurate, it's on Article 4, Section 44, if that would change your mind in voting for this bill. Also, on the deer farming, you know, it's not a matter of black and white and then that we eliminate deer farming right away. There's a process, and then also the process that we are putting this through conferencing, and we brought the Deer Farmer Association, the Board of Animal Health, the Board of Animal Health and the DNR to come together and have good dialogue and have a good plan moving forward. So there's a plan there. The issue is not solely about the deer farming. The issue is to contain CWD, carpet wasting disease, you know, to contain so we could prevent from spreading. Words that we listen in community about prion, that if an animal is infected with prion and die, the prion is on the ground for a certain enough time before it's disappear. So again, that my point is mainly for focus on CWD containment. There's also a mentioning about fee increase. Yes, there is fee increase on the boat, but in terms of negotiation, we prevented so much of other fee increase. Like there's no fishing fee increase, there's no park increase, and AIS surcharge fee. So that I'm proud that we stand our ground in a Senate position. And in terms of boat fee, that has not been increased since 2006. And this year, we are investing in improving our infrastructure, our water access infrastructure. You know, so it's the right timing for us to look at fee increase. Eventually, if we don't increase now, we'll pay that down the road. The last part, last time when this bill was here and we moved out, I know that was mentioning that we're not representing well a member on the other side. I would encourage more members on the other side to have voted for the bill. Perhaps there will be more representation. And I have been working hard trying to be inclusive of our minority member. With that, I want to thank my vice chair, Senator McEwen, who worked very hard, on many important sensitive issue, like CWD. All credit go to her. PFAS, all credit go to her, and also cumulative impact. That credit go to her as well in terms of running around and making sure we have peace in the valley all coordinated with the House. I also want to thank Senator Eichhorn, our minority lead in the Environment Committee, Senator Lane, Senator Green, and Senator Wiesenberg. It's been a good partnership. Also, Senator Hauschild, Senator Kunish, Senator Hoffman, and Senator Morrison. And it's been great serving with you through one session, and we'll look to serve with you ongoing throughout this term. I'm honored, members. I'm honored because this bill provides historic investment to our state natural resources, environment, outdoor infrastructure, community and education, conservation, and more to make sure that what we have now and what's around us now are better and well taken care of and preserved for our future generations. I love this bill. I love this bill because it reflects our Minnesota value and our commitment to be responsible steward of our environment, natural resource, our air, water, land, and the wildlife around us. So I ask members, both sides of the aisles, please vote green. I thank you all for your contribution to this bill, and let's make it historic. Thank you.
The Secretary will take the roll on final passage of House File 2310. Members, please vote. Senator Morrison, for those voting under Rule 40.7.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Mann votes aye.
Senator Mann votes aye.
Senator Putnam votes aye.
Senator Putnam votes aye.
Senator Rest votes aye.
Senator Rest votes aye.
Senator Wickland votes aye.
Senator Wickland votes aye.
Senator McEwen votes aye.
Senator McEwen votes aye. Senator Jasinski, for those voting under Rule 40.7.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Coleman votes no.
Senator Coleman votes no.
Senator Duckworth votes no.
Senator Duckworth votes no. All senators having, sorry about that, Senator Anderson. All senators having voted who desires to vote, the Secretary will close the roll. There being 35 ayes and 32 noes, the bill is passed and its title agreed to. Members, we will proceed now to the 13th order of business. Without objection, the following senators will be excused from today's session. Johnson, 11:50 to 12:10 p.m. Dames, 11:50 to 12:45 p.m. Weber, 11:50 a.m. to 1:15 p.m. And Abler from 5:10 p.m. to 7:20 p.m. Any other announcements of Senate interest? Senator Young? No? Okay, he says no. Okay, I saw him doing the Bobby Joe Champion wave, so I thought he wanted to say something. Any other announcements of Senate interest? Senator Disick.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think I'm reading lips from what Senator Johnson said. So tomorrow we'll come in at 10 o'clock, and I believe the Human Services Bill will be available. Tomorrow we'll come in at 10 o'clock, and I believe the Human Services Bill will be available by then. So we'll come in, we'll recess so we can caucus that bill, and then come back and do the Human Services Bill, and then potentially what other bills come over from the House. I believe that they will take up the state gov at some point, so that will come over. So did that answer your question? Okay, thank you. Mr. President, I move that the Senate do now adjourn until tomorrow, May 19th at 10 a.m.
On that motion, seeing no discussion, all in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. Cut it out. The motion prevails, and the Senate is now adjourned.